If you don't understand the rules of power, you will lose to someone who does. Power isn't just in money, armies, or politics. It begins in the mind.
And here's the shocker. Right now, the only thing stopping you from being powerful is a thought you've been rehearsing since childhood. Hi, I'm Jono.
And this is Crom.
In this video, we're breaking down the 12 ways power evolves.
From perception, leverage, resources, and narrative, all the way to inner mastery.
So stay with us until the end, because once you understand these stages, you won't just see power differently.
You may even want to wield it, to be honest. History proves this. Rome didn't fall because of one enemy. It fell when its people stopped believing in Rome. The mindset cracked. Then the empire followed.
And it's the same in an office today. Hard work, loyalty, waiting your turn. It won't get you promoted. If you don't play corporate politics, someone less talented will take your spot. The power mindset is simple. Stop acting like an imposter and you'll stop feeling like one.
Okay, this is going to age us, but think of Rocky Balboa, from the Rocky movies.
That is aging us. That is aging us.
That's aging us, yeah. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the strongest, but he had the mindset to take punches no one else could. That belief made him a legend. I know he's a character in the movie, but guess what? He is a legend, right?
He absolutely is. Or you could also look at Michael Jordan. He was cut from his high school basketball team. Most kids probably would have just quit, decided basketball wasn't for them, but his mindset turned rejection into rocket fuel. Basically, he thought to himself, I'll outwork everyone. And that single belief built arguably the greatest player in history.
I know some basketball people will be arguing about it.
Yeah, I've got into conversations about that before. So it's got to, yeah, there's a lot of arguing about this.
Jono, those stories prove something deeper, hey? People don't just chase victory, they chase power, right? Let's call a spade a spade. They're not just after victory, they're after power. But what is power, really, right? It's not just a force, it's not just wealth. It's the ability to shape reality itself.
That's exactly right. People want power because to many it means freedom.
Mm,
The freedom to decide, to influence, to not be at the mercy of someone else's choices.
yeah.
In business, in relationships, even in your own head, power is the difference between waiting and leading.
Or even jumping the line.
Or even jumping the line, exactly.
Alexander the Great was barely 20, right? When he commanded an army, right? I mean, fair call, he inherited a good army from his father, right? But he was still in his 20s, yeah?
Mm.
So why did men twice his age follow him? Yes, royalty, I get it. But following someone just because of their rank or following someone because you believe in them, that's another story, right? And with Alexander the Great, yes, he's a prince, or he's now the new king. He was not taller or stronger, but because he projected destiny, yeah? People crave power because it signals safety, direction, and even certainty, and sometimes adventure.
So, Crom, if power is about shaping reality, then is the first step about how others see you. Is perception the real starting line of power?
Okay, guys, I'm a marketer. There's no secret about that. If you Google my name, Crom Salvatera, it's all about marketing. Most of the time I'm talking about, right? And I would say exactly. Yeah, exactly that. Perception, first part. Power rests on what is seen and heard, recognized and believed, right? Look at physics. A watt is, you know what's a watt? You know, a measure of power?
Yeah.
Yeah, wattage, yeah. Isn't hidden energy. It's a visible output. Yeah. You only know the power of a light bulb when it shines. That's the watt, right?
That's it. And which is why in business, results only matter if they're visible. Now, you could be the quiet engine in the back room, but if no one sees the light you're producing, it's like you don't exist.
Sad, really. You know, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. It is what
It
it
is what
is.
it is. It is
Yeah,
what it
man.
is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people will probably get triggered or get offended by this episode because we're actually blatantly addressing what is power, and what the video is about is what is power, learn it, and how to amass it, and how to wield it. So
That's it. We're calling it what it is, not what
yeah,
we would like it to be.
yes, correct. And going back to that point you said, a torch with a switch off contains all its energies. It hasn't dissipated anything, right? Yet it guides no one. The unseen leader, unless you're the emperor in Star Wars, right? But he's also seen, he's felt. Yeah. So the unseen leader, no matter how capable, casts no influence. Yeah. So tell me, Jono, what do you think about this one? If power begins with what's visible, how does that play out today in the world obsessed with attention and status?
It is everywhere. In pop culture, power is attention, right? The Kardashians didn't invent fashion or music. In fact, they didn't invent anything.
No.
Don't start me. Anyway, they mastered visibility.
Mm.
Status is their wattage. The more you look, the brighter you burn.
And I don't want to invoke his name, but look at Trump. Right?
Oh, no, I don't want to.
We don't want him, but I'll bring it up. He is so ridiculously visible. Every moment he is stealing attention. If attention is drifting away, he will do something crazy, say something crazy to bring the attention back to him. Right?
Mm,
So,
exactly.
But just like the ancient rulers, yeah, stage parades. Yeah. Parade. Hey, Trump did that as well. Yeah. North Korea, they do that a lot. China does that. Putin does that as well. Crowds don't see the treasury. They don't. It's just a bunch of numbers, right? But guess what they cared about? They care about spectacle. Today's parade is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm not bagging YouTube here because, hey guys, you're watching this in YouTube. We need YouTube. This is how we get this is how we become visible here. But today's chariot is not just the old days of a chariot. It's actually a trending video, a trending page, even a trending hashtag.
It is. And like here's the punchline, for want of a better way to put it. Online, you don't even need talent to have power. You just need visibility. Like a TikTok dance can build more influence than a university degree. Sad but true.
Sad.
But attention is also fickle.
Yes.
Trends fade like shadows at sunset. So how do you frame perception in a way that actually lasts?
Yeah. I think by building symbols and symbolism and meaning around that. Yeah. Not just moments. Like like I said before, I've been marketing since 2004, right? And the secret in marketing hasn't changed. Brands survive when they stand for something bigger than the trend, right?
Mm.
Nike doesn't just sell shoes. They sell victory, right? Apple doesn't just sell phones. They're selling creativity. And I'll give you an example. Coca-Cola is a 100-year-old company, right? Everybody knows Coca-Cola. Yet they're still advertising. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They're still advertising. And the day they stop advertising, we'll kind of start looking at Pepsi or something like that. That's why they're always on your face. And that's framing perception in a way that will outlive the modern hashtag.
Yeah. So the logo, the story, the consistent vibe, it's the crown and parade of our age.
Yeah, yeah, big time.
That's how you make perceptions stick.
Exactly, bro. Which raises the question, hey, if framing perception is about symbols and stories, how does it play out in the battlefield of, here we go, guys. Are you ready for this? The office politics.
This is where we need that thunderclap sound.
Yeah, like boom. The infamous office politics. And I'll be honest with you, that's why I do what I do for a living. I can't stand being in a corporate world anymore. I am terrible at office politics. I was never good. I was that weird guy or that quiet guy, or even though I'm loud, that did the work and no one noticed. And
Right.
unless it's my results. But yeah, I'm terrible at office politics.
That's it. And in the office, power doesn't always go to the hardest worker.
Yeah.
It goes to the one people see.
Mm.
You know, FaceTime with boss counts more than hours on the project. You know, visibility frames competence, even if it's not the whole truth.
Yeah. Like courtiers in a royal court, hey. They're not the warriors or the scholars or the senators. They just stayed close next to the queen, the king, the emperor. So they're pretty close to the throne. They're courtiers, right? So that proximity shaped the perception that they are powerful with the king, the queen, and the emperor. So influence was built on being seen and not just being skilled, I suppose.
It's exactly it. You know, I've coached people who thought, you know, if I just do good work, I'll get promoted. And it's dead wrong. It's a shame, but it's dead wrong. You've got to frame your contribution, you know, share wins, control agendas, make your work visible. If people don't see it, it just doesn't exist.
Mm.
You know, which makes me wonder if perception rules in the office and in politics, how much power actually lives in persuasion and the stories that we tell ourselves.
Oh man, it's everything. It's everything. The most powerful book ever written or books written are in the Bible, right? The narrative in that book is what's been said, being told around the world for 3,500 years.
Mm.
And it's still here. It's still, you know, I guess legit or relevant. And it's everything. In advertising, I learned this. Okay. Facts tell, but stories sell. Yeah. A product is just glass, metal, plastic, really, until you frame it as freedom or a better life or style or status. Yeah. The story isn't the decoration. It's I think it's the power.
It is. It is. You know, like Apple. You know, people don't line up for the specs, right? They line up for the story. You know, creativity, identity, belonging. You know, it's a phone, and that's all it is.
Yes.
But it's framed as who you are.
Yep. Um, Smack bang spot on there, mate. How about this one? A crown is literally metal, just a bunch of metal on someone's head, but it's a
Right.
crown. It's a bunch of stones and rock on a golden metal that costs thousands, even millions of dollars, right? A logo is not just a shape or a word, but the story behind them turns objections into thrones, which makes me ask you about this one, mate. Jono, if symbols and stories drive perception, what about the power you feel before anyone speaks a word? You know, that presence thing. How much influence comes from the person's energy or presence?
Huge. It's a massive amount. In hypnotherapy, we know people respond to your state before your words. The breath you take, the way you hold your shoulders, the calm or tension in your face. It all broadcasts power or weakness before you even open your mouth.
Historically, there's I think I talked about the samurai here a lot now.
We have a
uh,
few times.
yeah, we have, right? So in Japanese martial arts and specifically samurai oriented martial arts, there is this energy called ki, also known as in Chinese as chi. In India, it's called prana. In Western mysticism, it's called lux, LVX.
Mm.
In the Western world, we also call it the spirit. Yeah, the spirit that fills the room. Leaders don't just walk in. Yeah, they literally shift the air. You feel them before you hear them. All of a sudden, everybody goes quiet. Somebody entered the room. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. And think about someone like, say, Obama.
Oh man,
You know,
that
before,
guy's a legend. Love that man.
what an amazing orator. Okay.
Yeah,
Before he spoke, the stillness, the poise, the eye contact, the energy framed the message as credible. And that's presence. Which makes me wonder, if perception is the spark of power, then how do we actually amplify that spark into something much bigger?
man. Okay, we're getting exponentially now, guys.
We are. Yeah, we are.
Through leverage. Through leverage. Very simple. Well, it's not simple, but through leverage. Power magnifies effort. Yeah. A small act at the right angle can topple giants. That's why Archimedes said, give me a lever long enough and I'll move the world.
Yeah, which is true in business too. A single email list, a viral video, or the right introduction can scale an idea further than years of grinding.
Exactly. You know the 300 Spartans in Thermopylae?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a movie there, by the way, in case you don't know those guys. They they couldn't outnumber Persia. Apparently, there's like 500,000 people there, and there was just 300 Spartans plus, a couple of and a few Greeks that are hidden. Yeah, they they were there fighting this massive army, massive empire. And what they did is they leveraged the terrain and they found a narrow pass and a bottleneck. Yeah, so bottleneck. And that held an army 10 times, 100 times bigger than their size. Small input, massive impact. So let me ask you this, brother. Since leverage multiplies strength, how do we see it play out in everyday life, right? Not on the battlefield, but in the psychology of the individual.
I think it comes down to habits. Leverage in the mind works the same way.
Yeah,
One small shift compounds into massive change. If you change your morning ritual, for example, you don't just win the morning, you shift your focus, your energy, and your decisions for the whole day.
Like, I guess, nudging the rudder of a ship. Yeah. Tiny little movements, tiny little adjustment, today leads you to a different, I guess, continent in months later.
That's it.
Yeah.
And look, I've seen clients reframe a single belief, like turning I'm not good enough into I'm still learning.
Mm.
And suddenly their confidence, their career, and relationships evolve in ways years of struggling never achieved. That's psychological leverage, which makes me wonder if leverage is about multiplying effort. What happens when you add the ultimate multiplier, technology? And that's where we
Yeah.
need that thunderclap again, right?
Yeah. Boom. Dun, 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 dun. Technology. Yes. I'll say it again. I'm in digital marketing. So we are in the forefront of technology and artificial intelligence. So that's the forefront of technology today, right? Technology is the greatest amplifier of power humanity has ever known. Yeah. Just think about it. You go to a concert, yeah, that little guitar can be heard throughout the stadium. That's an amplifier, right?
How good's that?
How cool is that? Back in the old days, you need to be, those opera singers, they train how to sing for a big amphitheater or an amphitheater. Now you got a microphone. You don't even need to, belt out a tune. You can even whisper and everybody can feel it. How about fire? Man, that's a good invention. Yeah, that's a great invention. Yes, there's fires everywhere, but controlling fire, yeah, that's what separated us from the other Homo species. Yeah, that's also what separates the Homo species from the apes, right? By eating cooked food, we don't have to chew so long. We also got the most nutrients, and then we can power up this big brain of ours. How about the wheel? That's a great invention as well, right? How about the printing press? I mean, we said it here before. The printing press was invented before people knew how to read. I think there was only about 10%, 15% of humanity back then that can read. And the printing press made everybody want to read.
Yeah.
And it also triggered a new industry called eyeglasses after that. The internet, man. The internet.
Yep.
We're literally cyborgs nowadays because we're always
Yeah.
attached to a computer in our pockets, in our wrist. Yeah. Each one of these is a multiplier. Each one multiplied human influence far beyond the raw muscles or numbers. A tool turns one person into many. And I just want to really, really highlight this, right? Humanity invented all these technologies, and in return, technology changed humanity. We have this symbiotic relationship.
It's so true. It's so true. One coder
Mm.
with the right app can disrupt an entire industry. Think about Zuckerberg in his dorm room. Facebook didn't just connect friends, it reshaped politics, culture, business. And that's just the leverage of scale.
Man, that's leverage.
Yeah.
I don't think Microsoft Doc has changed politics, has it? Maybe. Has
What
it?
was that?
Microsoft Docs, the Google, not Doc, but the Doc,
Oh, yeah.
Word Doc. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Did that change the world? Of course it did. That simple spreadsheet ran companies, right? So a sword in one hand is force. A nuclear weapon in a silo is deterrence. Tools reshape the balance of fear. hope and control. Technology doesn't just extend reach, it redefines power itself. So tell me, brother, Jono, in a world where where tools can multiply influence overnight, even the next hour, what's the real difference between those who own technology and those who are simply used by it?
Well, I think with that, the obvious thing is those that own the technology have the power.
Yeah,
The rest of us are simply being influenced by it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the
eh,
same with money.
yeah,
Money is stored energy,
yes.
capital waiting to be leveraged. The
Mm.
wealthy aren't powerful because they work harder. They're powerful because they multiply their effort with financial tools and investments and credit and capital.
Like the Medici in the Renaissance period in Florence, hey, they didn't rule with swords. Or they did. They had an army, yeah. But they really ruled through banking because they were lending money to kings and queens and the Pope. That's power, yeah.
Yeah.
So by controlling capital, they finance wars. Their gold bent the map of Europe.
Yeah. And like today, venture capital works the same way. A founder with an idea can move fast, but with funding, they can move markets. And that's leverage. That's power. So here's the question. If money multiplies reach and tech multiplies scale, what about the hidden multiplier in power? The networks of people you know.
Oh man. Imagine that you can just call Jeff Bezos. You can just call Obama. You can just call the prime minister.
Makes
How
it makes the game easier.
easier. Yeah. So networks are one of the oldest forms of leverage. A single voice may fade, but a connected voice, yeah, becomes an echo, even an amplifier that fills the holes of power. Kings had courtiers, right? Generals had alliances. Merchants had trade guilds. Power was never carried alone.
Yeah, and today your network is essentially your net worth. A warm introduction to the right investor, a mentor, or client can leapfrog you years ahead of cold effort. Influence foes faster through relationships than through resumes.
And you know that old saying, you are the average of the five people you hang around with the most?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So imagine if the network that one is in are mostly broke people or not, or people without any influence. Man, it's not much that that network can do. And you know, and it's like I guess it's a spider web. Hey, the
Yeah.
strength isn't in one thread, but the way they are all connected and the engineering of it, right? Cut one and the web still holds. Pull many and it captures everything that lands. So tell me, Jono, if networks amplify our reach, what about knowledge? Isn't foresight itself a kind of leverage that lets you win without fighting?
Oh, it absolutely is. Knowledge is one of the purest forms of leverage. I think it was Francis Bacon, said it best, quite simply, knowledge is power.
Which
You
is
know, it,
we tweaked that, didn't we? The use of what?
what was that? Sorry.
Can you go to the next level, please? I'll edit this. Knowledge, the use of knowledge is power, not knowledge is power, because that's what we said in the previous video.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
start with Francis Bacon.
So let's change it to the use of knowledge as power.
So
Yeah.
Francis Bacon said that blah blah, and then but I want to take it to the next level.
Absolutely. Knowledge is one of the purest forms of leverage. Francis Bacon said it. knowledge is power. But we can take that one step further. Use of knowledge is power. With foresight, you don't need to clash head on. You can sidestep, anticipate, and win before the fight even begins.
Like the Allies breaking the Enigma code in World War II, they didn't just fight harder. They knew where the enemy was, yeah, where it's going to strike again. Information shortened the war, right? Start again. 3, 2, 1, and information shortened the war more than what bombs and bullets did, actually.
Yeah, it's a really good example. And you look at in business, it's the same. Market research data, even a tiny piece of inside knowledge can save you millions or make you millions. Knowledge isn't just an edge, it is power. Which makes me wonder. So if leverage multiplies through money, through tech, through networks and knowledge, what happens when someone controls the very resources everyone else depends on?
Man, and they literally control power itself.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a lot of this going on these days.
Man, it's so much, right? Like, I don't know where to begin on that one, but let's start with something that is well studied. Look at Rome. Yeah, they weren't feared just for their legions. They controlled grain. If you fed the empire, you literally ruled the empire. Resources are the lifeblood of control. Start again. If you fed the empire, you ruled the empire. Resources are the lifeblood, right? Control the flow and you control the people.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same today. Look at oil companies, data monopolies, even the platforms we use, Facebook, Google, Apple. They don't just compete; they gatekeep. And if they hold the resource, you play by their rules.
Yeah, man, I'm glad Apple finally got rid of they have to use USB-C as a law.
Oh, thankfully.
So, and that's an example of, okay, we control the share market or the market share of smartphones. So we're going to come up with our own charger. And that's another additional resource for them. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's the key to the city controlling the resource. Everyone may have swords, but only one holds the gate. And the gatekeeper doesn't need to be the strongest, just the one who decides who gets through. A good example in this one is Stalin. Yeah.
Sorry, was what? Sorry.
Stalin. You know Stalin from Russia?
Oh, Stalin. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was the go-to guy. Yeah. And eventually he controlled everyone because he moved everybody like a chess piece. Same with Chairman Mao. If you notice, his name is not king, queen, it's chairman. Okay, he was the leader of that committee, right? And so whoever, and it goes back to being organized. So Jono, if resources decide the game, what happens inside organizations where power isn't about oil or grain or controlling information?
Yeah, look, in the office, like we're saying, the information is the new currency. The one who controls access to the boss, who knows what's really happening behind closed doors. That's the real power broker. Not the title on the door, but the flow of information through the halls.
Yeah, like the king's vizier or the secretary in the palace. They may not wear the crown, but they whisper in the ear of the ruler. Yeah. Imagine those executive assistants. They don't have power, but the leader or the CEO or the chairman relies on them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the ear of the ruler. So they have the ear of the ruler and the trust of the ruler. That whisper often decides the kingdom's fate.
Yeah, look, and I've seen companies where the executive assistant has more practical power than the department heads.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, why is that? Because they control the calendar, the access, the information. That's just absolutely gatekeeping in action. So, mate, if gatekeeping works in the office, what about on a larger stage when entire nations are moved, not by resources or officers, but by people united as a collective?
Boom. That's powerful, man. Excuse the pun. Collectives are the most volatile resource of all. Yeah. One voice can be silenced, but a united voice can topple thrones. Just look at the French Revolution. Yeah. Was it fun? Was it funded by gold? No, it wasn't. It was fueled by bread riots. Mobilized people are power.
Yeah, and it's the same with movements like the Me Too or the Arab Spring. A few posts online can ignite millions, and suddenly leaders who seemed untouchable are forced to step down.
And remember Kevin 07? Well, I'm not sure if you were here in Australia.
No,
Kevin
I
07.
wasn't, but I heard all about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kevin 07. That's the one that toppled John Howard. Yeah,
Mm.
that movement. So it's a start again. The collective. Are we the topic of collective? Yes, we are, right? Okay. So yeah, it's the collective. It's the ocean wave. A drop of water is pretty much nothing, but when the tide turns, no wall, no army, no king can resist its force. The collective, once there, is unstoppable. So, if people themselves are the ultimate resource, start again. 3, 2, 1, and 3, 2, 1. And if people themselves are the ultimate resource, how much more dangerous does it become when belief and faith are mobilized as fuel?
Look, that is absolutely massive, mate. Um, Faith is the deepest lever of human behavior. When people say they're serving something bigger, God, destiny, salvation, they'll endure sacrifice or even death. Belief is a renewable energy source for power.
Like the Crusades. That's massive, right? Whole nations marched across continents, not for gold or land. Maybe there is golden land there as well, but for the symbol of the cross. That belief mobilized armies kings alone could never raise.
Yeah, and today you see it in like mega churches or movement like Gandhi's Satyagraha. Faith turns individuals into movements. It's not money or weapons, it's conviction that multiplies action. So if resources, whether grain, data, crowds, faith, decide who holds power, what happens when you control not just resources, but the very story people believe about them?
Then you then you don't just hold power. You become the author of reality itself. Power is sustained by stories. Alexander the Great wasn't just a conqueror. He was called the son of Zeus. That narrative made men, okay, that narrative made men march across deserts for him.
Yeah, and again, same in business, right? So Elon Musk doesn't just sell cars. He sells the story of the future, Mars, AI, new civilizations. Um, And that story pulls in investors, it pulls in talent and customers all at once.
In movies, movies show us, um, movies show us this truth. Remember Tony Montana?
Very well.
Scarface. Yeah, yeah. He rose embodying the myth of a domination and fell when the story consumed him. Right? He's the guy who goes, you firstly get. No, I'm not gonna impersonate him. I can see myself failing miserably at
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one. Stories crown kings, yeah, and stories also destroy them. So Jono, if power is shaped by stories, the stories we tell, how do stories play out in everyday dramas of life, in alliances, betrayals, in survival games we call news, social media, and TV?
Well, essentially, they're the same script,
Yeah.
just different costumes. The evening news, a Twitter thread, or a Netflix drama. Each one is a narrative battle. Who's the hero? Who's the villain? Who gets cancelled? Who gets redeemed? Power flows to whoever frames the story first.
Like emperors using public games to control the masses, yeah? Today, the arena isn't the Colosseum, it's the media cycle. One headline can crown a leader, another can bring them down, really.
Yeah, no, it was illustrated really well in Game of Thrones, for example. Okay. Power shifted not through battles, but betrayals, whispers, alliances. And social media works the same. A trending hashtag can topple a politician faster than a vote. Which makes me ask you, so Crom, if news and media crown today's heroes and villains, what happens when those stories are elevated into a myth?
Then they stop being just stories. They become power itself. Myths are the operating system of civilization. Achilles, yeah, from the Greek mythology, wasn't just a warrior. He was the symbol of glory, the crown, the flag, the logo. They're compressed myths people can carry in their hearts. Just look at the American story, right? They got oppressed by the British, and it's about tea, and then a revolution happened. It's all about their freedom. To this day, their American narrative is all about freedom, 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 right?
Right.
And my American friends do not understand that us in Australia, although we have the same freedom as them, we don't wave it as the cause because I guess we didn't have a revolution to have freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, like the Apple logo. It's not just a piece of fruit with a bite out of it, right? It's the story of creativity, of rebellion, and genius in your pocket. People line up overnight for the myth, not for the specs.
I don't know if you noticed that the apple has a bite in it. You know what that symbol is?
What's that?
Adam and Eve.
Is it?
Yeah, man.
I had no idea.
Yeah. The Garden of Eden. Don't eat that fruit.
Ah, right. Yeah, I'd never thought about it, but you're right.
Yeah. So you bite the yeah. So I'll give you another example. This could be controversial again. The cross, the swastika. Yeah. Those I know I shouldn't put them together in one place, but the cross, the swastika, the
No, it
hammer,
makes
the
the point.
sickle.
It makes the point.
I mean, imagine um uh what movement, right? The crescent for Islam, right? The cloth and metal made immortal because the myth inside them was believed. Symbols compress stories into icons, and icons command armies. So tell me, if symbols can move nations, you would love this, Brian. What about charisma? The power not of a crown or a flag, but the living, breathing person who embodies the myth.
Yeah, look, charisma is living narrative. Now, it's when the story isn't on paper or in a symbol, it's in the person.
Mm.
People don't just listen to a charismatic leader, they feel them, right? That vibe writes a story in the body before the words hit the ear.
Think of Martin Luther King. Yeah, his dream speech wasn't just speech. It was embodied in his, the cadence, his presence, his rhythm. The story of justice was alive in him.
That's it. And like, look at someone like, say, Tony Robbins or again, Obama. The charisma is so strong, the audience feels possibility before a single policy or tactic is explained. And that's embodied power. And so if charisma is the story embodied in a single figure, what happens when entire narratives are stretched across time, when the rise and fall of power is told through timing and momentum?
Then power becomes rhythm.
Yeah.
It's just rhythm. It's not just rhythm because it's power, but it is rhythm, right? Timing is the invisible throne. Strike too early and you're a fool. Strike too late, too late. You missed the spot, you forgot it. Yeah. But strike at the right time, at the right moment, and history calls you inevitable.
Yeah, it's like MySpace versus Facebook,
Yes, it is.
right? It's the same idea, online connections, but MySpace was too early, it was clunky, it was a bit unfocused. Zuckerberg timed it just right, and the wave carried him global.
Mm. Power is surfing that wave. Yeah. Not just swimming. You don't create the wave. You catch it. And when you ride the momentum, the current does the work of kings and armies for you. So if timing is the secret weapon, how do we train ourselves to recognize the wave before it crests?
Yeah, it comes down to foresight. In psychology and hypnotherapy, we know that your unconscious mind tracks patterns long before your conscious mind catches up.
Yeah.
And if you train awareness, you start spotting the signs of momentum before they explode.
Like Sun Tzu, the Chinese writer, said in The Art of War, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. He didn't mean guesswork. He meant reading the rhythms of preparation so well that victory was timed before the first clash.
Yeah, and like think of investors who spotted Amazon early.
I wish I was one of those guys.
Yeah, don't you just? Don't you just? They weren't lucky. They recognized the wave of e-commerce before it broke, right?
Yeah,
Timing is less about prediction, more about preparation. Being ready. So when the door cracks open, you're already moving. So if timing is the rhythm of power, what happens when the battlefield isn't external at all, but inside your own mind, where the hardest timing is knowing when to act on yourself?
then you've reached the throne of all power, inner mastery, the power no one can take away from you. Armies, money, followers, they can all vanish. But discipline, clarity, resilience, those are power you carry into every battlefield of your everyday life.
Yeah, look, I see that in therapy all the time. Someone can have wealth, a career, family, but if they haven't mastered their own mind, fear and doubt eat it all away. The root of power is mindset.
Here, here. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, yeah, ruled an empire and still wrote in his journal every night, mastering himself before mastering Rome. He knew if you don't sit on the throne of your own mind, someone else will. If the mind is the true throne, how do we turn all these lessons, perceptions, leverage, resources, narrative, timing into one unified mindset of power?
It's simple but not easy. Power isn't just force, fame, or fortune, it's the mindset behind them. Perception teaches you to be seen. Leverage teaches you to multiply. Resources remind you to control the flow. Narrative lets you shape belief. Timing gives you rhythm, and inner mastery ties it all together. Power collapses back to how you think, what you believe, and the actions you take.
I love that. Power collapses back to those. Love
Yeah.
that, man. Um, these are the rivers flowing into one sea, the power mindset. Without it, even the strongest empire crumbles. With it, even the smallest person, the seed grows into a mighty oak, a mighty person.
Yeah, so here's the truth. Power isn't out there waiting to be given. It's in here, waiting to be claimed. The question is, what story, what leverage, what belief are you ready to live today?
Remember, the mind is the true throne of power. Guard it well, master it deeply, and the world will bend to your will. If you found this video useful or it stirred something powerful within you, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you will never miss the next evolution of your mindset.
And with that, once again, this is Jono.
And this is Crom. See you on the next video.
See you next week, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.